tonight, you're not just trying to sleep, you're trying to escape your own mind. Because no matter how tired your body is, your thoughts won't stop. They keep replaying things you wish you could forget. They keep creating problems that don't even exist yet. And the more you try to control it, the more it controls you. But what if I told you your mind isn't the problem? What if the reason you can't rest is because you've been fighting it the wrong way your entire life? Tonight, you're not going to silence your mind. You're going to understand it. And once you truly understand it, something unexpected begins to happen. The noise starts to fade, not because you forced it to, but because you finally stopped holding on to it. So before you try to sleep again, stay with this, because what you're about to hear might be the first time your mind finally lets you rest. Listen carefully, because this is the moment where everything begins to shift inside you in a way you may have never experienced before. Right now, even as you are trying to relax, your mind is still active, still moving, still creating one thought after another without asking for your permission. And the more you try to quiet it, the more you become aware of how little control you actually have over it. Thoughts appear, disappear, change direction, and return again, almost like a loop that refuses to end. And somewhere along the way, without even noticing it, you started believing that this constant stream of thinking is who you are. You don't just hear your thoughts, you become them. When a thought says something negative, it feels like you are negative. When a thought brings fear, it feels like you are afraid. When a thought reminds you of something painful, it feels like that pain is happening again right now. And this is where the real suffering begins. Not in the thought itself, but in the way you merge with it so completely that you forget there is any distance between you and what your mind is producing. But if you slow down for a moment and really look at what is happening, something very important starts to reveal itself. Thoughts are not something you consciously choose most of the time. They arrive on their own, often repeating patterns you didn't invite, showing memories you didn't ask for, and creating worries that have no immediate reality. If you were truly your thoughts, you would be able to control them fully. You would decide when they begin, what they say, and when they stop. But that is not your experience. Instead, your experience is that thoughts come and go, sometimes helpful, sometimes disturbing, and often completely unnecessary. This means something profound. There is a part of you that is aware of these thoughts, a part of you that can notice them, observe them, and even question them. That awareness is not the same as the thought itself. It is quieter, deeper, and more stable than the noise happening in your mind. You may have never paid attention to it before because the voice of the mind is so loud, but it is always there, watching, noticing, existing beyond the constant movement of thinking. Imagine sitting quietly and watching your thoughts as if they were voices speaking in a distant room. One voice says you are not doing enough. Another voice brings up something from your past. Another one creates fear about the future. And normally you would respond to each of them automatically, reacting, arguing, or getting pulled into the story they are telling. But if you stop responding and simply listen, not as the voice, but as the one who hears the voice, something begins to change. The thoughts lose their intensity, not because they disappear instantly, but because you are no longer feeding them with your identity. This is where most people misunderstand the mind. They believe they need to control it, silence it, or force it to behave. But the more they try, the more trapped they feel. The mind becomes louder, more resistant, and more exhausting. Buddhist wisdom does not teach control in the way most people expect. It teaches understanding, observation, and gentle separation. Thoughts are seen as temporary events, not as truths that must be believed or identities that must be carried. When you begin to see thoughts as temporary, something inside you starts to relax. You realize that not every thought deserves your attention, not every idea needs to be followed, and not every feeling needs to define you. You begin to experience a small gap between you and your mind. And even though this gap may feel very subtle at first, it is the beginning of freedom. Within that gap, there is a different kind of experience, one that is not based on thinking, but on simply being present. There are moments, very brief at first, where no thought is demanding your attention, where everything feels still, quiet, and neutral. These moments are often ignored because the mind quickly fills them again. But if you start to notice them, you will realize that peace has always been there, hidden behind the constant noise of thinking. The problem is not that your mind is active. The problem is that you have been identifying with every single thought it produces, believing that each one represents you in some way. But thoughts are not stable, they are not permanent, and they are not a reliable reflection of who you truly are. They are patterns, habits, reactions, and echoes of past experiences, all moving through your awareness like waves that rise and fall on their own. You are not those waves. You are the space in which they appear. Once you begin to understand this, even slightly, the relationship between you and your mind starts to change. You stop trying to win against it, and instead you step back from it. You stop believing everything it says, and instead you start noticing what it is doing. This shift may feel small, but it changes everything because it removes the pressure of needing to control something that was never meant to be controlled. Tonight, when your mind starts again, and it will, you don't need to react the way you always have. You don't need to follow every thought, analyze every situation, or solve every problem that appears. You can simply observe. You can let the thoughts come and go without turning them into something bigger than they are. As you do this, slowly and gently, a quiet distance will begin to grow between you and your mind. That distance is not emptiness, it is clarity. It is the realization that you are not trapped inside your thoughts, even though it may have felt that way for a long time. And within that clarity, something unexpected begins to emerge. A sense of calm that does not come from forcing your mind to stop, but from no longer being controlled by everything it says. A sense of rest that does not depend on silence, but on understanding. This is the beginning of peace, not because your mind has disappeared, but because you are finally seeing it for what it is, and realizing, perhaps for the first time, that it was never you. There is something almost everyone does when their mind refuses to rest, and it feels like the most natural reaction in the world. Yet it is the very thing that keeps the mind awake and active for hours without end. The moment you notice that your thoughts won't stop, you try to push them away. You tell yourself to be quiet, to stop thinking, to just sleep. And for a brief second, it feels like you are doing something helpful, like you are taking control. But what actually happens beneath the surface is something very different. The mind does not understand force in the way you expect it to. When you try to silence it, it does not become quiet. It becomes alert. It treats your resistance as a signal that something important is happening, something that needs attention, something that cannot be ignored. So instead of calming down, it begins to work harder, producing more thoughts, repeating them more clearly, and making them feel more urgent than before. This is why the harder you try to stop thinking, the louder your mind becomes, and the more frustrated you feel as the night goes on. Think about how often you have experienced this. You lie down, close your eyes, and decide that now is the time to rest. But within moments, a thought appears. At first it seems small, something simple. But as soon as you try to push it away, it returns stronger. Then another thought joins it, and another, until it feels like your mind is completely out of control. You start to feel trapped inside your own thinking, and the more you try to escape, the deeper you seem to fall into it. This is not because your mind is broken, and it is not because you lack discipline. It is because resistance feeds the very thing you are trying to remove. Every time you fight a thought, you give it attention, and attention is energy. The mind takes that energy and uses it to create more of the same, more repetition, more intensity, more noise. Without realizing it, you become part of the process that keeps the mind active. Buddhist teachings point to something very simple, yet very difficult to accept at first. You do not calm the mind by fighting it. You calm the mind by allowing it. This does not mean you agree with every thought or that you let it control your actions, but it means you stop treating every thought as a problem that must be solved immediately. You stop reacting with urgency, and instead you begin to observe with patience. When a thought appears, instead of pushing it away, you let it be there. You notice it without following it, without judging it, and without trying to change it. At first, this may feel uncomfortable because you are used to reacting instantly. But if you stay with it, something begins to shift. The thought does not grow stronger. It begins to lose its intensity. It may still be there, but it no longer feels overwhelming. This is because the mind depends on your reaction to keep its momentum. Without your resistance, without your struggle, it has nothing to push against. It begins to slow down, not because you forced it, but because you stopped feeding it. The energy that was keeping the thoughts alive starts to fade, and in its place, a subtle sense of calm begins to appear. You can think of it like trying to smooth the surface of water. If you keep touching it, trying to force it to become still, you create more movement. But if you leave it alone, if you stop interfering, the water settles on its own. The same is true for your mind. It has a natural ability to return to calm, but constant resistance keeps it disturbed. This does not mean your thoughts will disappear instantly. The mind has habits, patterns it has been repeating for a long time, and it may take time for those patterns to soften. But every moment you choose not to fight, you weaken the cycle. Every moment you observe instead of react, you create space. And within that space, the mind begins to find its way back to stillness. There is also something deeper happening here. When you stop fighting your thoughts, you stop treating them as enemies. You stop seeing your own mind as something that must be controlled or defeated, and instead you begin to understand it. You begin to see that it is simply doing what it has always done, trying to protect you, trying to make sense of things, even if it does so in a way that creates unnecessary noise. This shift from resistance to understanding changes your entire relationship with your mind. It removes the tension, the pressure, and the constant feeling that something is wrong. You realize that the problem was never the presence of thoughts, but the way you were responding to them. Tonight, when your mind starts to become active again, notice your first reaction. Notice the urge to stop it, to control it, to force it into silence. And instead of following that urge, pause for a moment. Let the thoughts be there. Watch them without stepping inside them. Allow them without trying to change them. At first, nothing may seem different, but if you stay with this approach, you will begin to feel a subtle shift. The thoughts may still come, but they will not feel as heavy. They will not pull you as deeply, and over time, they will begin to lose their grip entirely. This is not about winning against your mind. It is about stepping out of the struggle completely. And when the struggle ends, even for a moment, something else becomes possible. A quiet that does not come from force, but from the absence of resistance. A stillness that has been there all along, waiting for you to stop pushing against your own mind. This is how rest begins. Not by silencing the mind, but by no longer fighting its noise. There is something even deeper than overthinking, something more subtle and more powerful. And it is the real reason your mind refuses to rest even when your body is exhausted. It is not just that thoughts appear again and again. It is that you hold on to them in a way that feels almost automatic, as if letting them go would mean losing something important. You don't just experience thoughts, you cling to them, you replay them, you give them meaning, and slowly, without realizing it, they begin to feel like part of your identity. Think about how often your mind returns to the same moment, the same conversation, the same feeling. You go over it again and again, imagining what you could have said, what you should have done, how things might have been different if only one small detail had changed. The event itself is already over. It no longer exists in reality. Yet in your mind it is still alive, still active, still shaping the way you feel right now. This is not because the moment itself has power, but because you are holding on to it as if it does. The same thing happens with the future. Your mind creates scenarios that have not happened, situations that may never happen, and yet they feel real enough to disturb your peace. You prepare for outcomes that exist only in imagination, and in doing so, you carry stress, fear, and tension into the present moment. Again, it is not the future itself that causes this, but your attachment to the idea of it. Attachment does not always feel obvious. It does not always look like holding on to something tightly. Sometimes it looks like thinking about something again and again without even questioning why. Sometimes it feels like you are trying to understand, to fix, to solve. But beneath all of that, there is a deeper pattern, a refusal to let the thought pass on its own. The mind presents something, and instead of allowing it to move through you, you stop it, examine it, and give it a place to stay. Buddhist teachings describe this very clearly. Suffering does not come from the thought itself, but from the attachment to it. A thought arises, and that is natural. That is part of being human. But when you hold on to it, when you repeat it, when you build a story around it, that is when it becomes heavy. That is when it starts to feel like something you cannot escape. You may believe that holding on to thoughts is necessary, that if you don't think about them enough, you might miss something important, or fail to understand something that matters. But in most cases, the opposite is true. The more you hold on to a thought, the less clearly you see it. It becomes distorted, exaggerated, and disconnected from reality. It grows not because it is important, but because it is being fed continuously by your attention. Imagine holding a small object in your hand. At first, it feels light, almost unnoticeable. But if you hold it tightly for a long time without putting it down, it begins to feel heavy. Your hand becomes tense. Your arm begins to ache, and what was once effortless becomes exhausting. The object itself has not changed, but your attachment to it has turned it into a burden. This is exactly what happens with your thoughts. They are not heavy by nature, but the act of holding on to them makes them feel overwhelming. You carry them with you from moment to moment, from day to night, until your mind feels crowded and your body feels tired, even if nothing has physically happened. Letting go, however, is not something you force. It is not about pushing thoughts away or pretending they don't exist. It is about loosening your grip, about allowing thoughts to move without stopping them. It is about seeing that you do not need to hold on to every idea, every memory, every possibility that your mind creates. When a thought appears, notice what your mind wants to do with it. Does it want to analyze it, repeat it, turn it into a story, or attach emotion to it? Instead of following that pattern, try something different. Let the thought be there, but do not add anything to it. Do not build on it, do not continue the story, and do not try to resolve it immediately. At first, this may feel incomplete, as if something has been left unfinished. But if you stay with it, you will begin to notice that the thought loses its urgency. It fades on its own, not because you forced it, but because you stopped feeding it. The mind may bring it back again, but each time you choose not to attach to it, its hold becomes weaker. There is also a deeper understanding that begins to emerge when you practice this. You start to see that most of what your mind holds on to is not necessary for your well-being. It is not helping you in the present moment. It is not improving your life, and it is not bringing clarity. It is simply a habit, a pattern that has been repeated so many times that it feels normal. As this understanding grows, letting go becomes easier. Not because you are forcing yourself to release thoughts, but because you no longer feel the need to hold on to them. You begin to trust that not every thought requires your attention, that not every feeling needs to be analyzed, and that peace is not found by solving everything in your mind. Tonight, as your mind continues to move, notice the moments where you start to hold on to a thought. Notice the moment where a simple idea begins to turn into a story, where something small begins to feel heavy. And in that moment, gently choose to release it, not by pushing it away, but by not holding on to it. Allow it to pass, just as it came. This may not feel like much at first, but this is where the weight begins to lift. This is where your mind starts to feel lighter, not because it has stopped thinking completely, but because it is no longer carrying everything it creates. And in that lightness, even for a brief moment, you begin to experience something different. A sense of ease, a sense of space, a sense of quiet that does not come from controlling your mind, but from no longer holding on to everything within it. This is the beginning of release, not by force, not by struggle, but by understanding that you were never meant to carry every thought that passes through you. There is a place where your mind cannot disturb you, a place that is always available, always steady, and always untouched by the noise that keeps you awake at night. Yet most people spend their entire lives without truly experiencing it, not because it is hidden and not because it is difficult to reach, but because they are constantly looking somewhere else, lost in thoughts about what has already happened or what might happen next. Right now, if you pause and look carefully at this exact moment, you may begin to notice something surprising. There is no problem happening here, in this second, in this breath, in this space you are in. There is no past replaying itself in reality, and there is no future unfolding in front of you at this exact instant. The room is still, your body is here, your breath is moving naturally, and yet your mind continues to create movement where there is none. This is the nature of the mind. It does not live in the present moment. It moves between memory and imagination, between what has already happened and what has not happened yet. And in doing so, it creates a constant sense of tension. The past brings regret, the future brings worry, and together they create a kind of noise that feels impossible to escape. But that noise does not exist in the present moment itself. It exists only in thought. When you are fully present, even for a brief moment, there is a noticeable shift. The urgency fades, the tension softens, and the need to solve everything disappears. This does not mean your life suddenly becomes perfect or that all your problems are resolved, but it means that in this exact moment, you are no longer carrying everything at once. You are simply here, without the weight of everything your mind has been holding. Buddhist teachings place great importance on this understanding, not because the present moment is a concept to think about, but because it is an experience to return to again and again. The mind will continue to wander, it will continue to create thoughts, but you always have the ability to come back, not by force, not by control, but by gently bringing your attention to what is actually happening right now. This is why something as simple as your breath becomes so powerful. Your breath is always happening in the present moment. It is not in the past, and it is not in the future. When you place your attention on it, even lightly, you begin to step out of the constant movement of thinking and into something steady. You begin to feel your body, the rhythm of your breathing, the quiet space around you. And in that awareness, the mind naturally begins to slow down. At first, it may only last for a few seconds before another thought pulls you away, and that is completely natural. The mind has been trained for a long time to wander, to analyze, to imagine, and it will not stop immediately. But each time you notice that you have been pulled away and gently return your attention to the present moment, you are weakening that habit. You are reminding yourself that you do not have to follow every thought. There is also something deeper that begins to unfold when you spend more time in the present moment. You start to realize that much of the suffering you feel is not coming from what is actually happening, but from what your mind is adding to it. A simple situation becomes complicated because of the story attached to it. A quiet moment becomes uncomfortable because the mind fills it with noise. But when you remain present without adding anything, the experience becomes simpler, lighter, and more manageable. The present moment does not demand anything from you. It does not require you to solve your entire life. It does not ask you to fix everything that has gone wrong, and it does not force you to predict what will happen next. It only asks you to be here, fully, without distraction, without resistance, and without the constant need to think your way through everything. Tonight, When your mind begins to pull you into the past or push you into the future, notice what is happening. Notice how quickly a single thought can take you away from where you are. And instead of following it, gently bring your attention back. Feel your breath. Feel your body resting. Feel the stillness around you. Even if it is subtle, you do not need to do this perfectly. Your mind will wander again, and that is part of the process. What matters is that you keep returning again and again, without frustration, without judgment. Each return strengthens your connection to the present moment, and each moment of presence creates a small space of quiet within you. Over time, this quiet begins to grow. It becomes easier to access, easier to stay with, and more natural than constant thinking. You begin to trust it, to rest in it, and to realize that it has always been there, waiting beneath the surface of your thoughts. The mind may continue to move, but it no longer controls everything. You begin to see that there is a deeper stability within you, something that is not affected by every thought or every emotion. And in that stability, you find a kind of rest that does not depend on silence, but on presence. This is where true calm begins, not by escaping your mind, but by stepping out of its constant movement and into the reality of this moment, where nothing is missing, nothing is urgent, and nothing needs to be held onto. And in that realization, even for a short time, your mind finally begins to soften, because it no longer needs to carry you somewhere else. There is a misunderstanding that silently controls the way you experience your own mind. And until you see it clearly, you will continue to feel like your thoughts are working against you instead of for you. Most people believe their mind is the problem, that it is too loud, too restless, too negative, and too difficult to control. But what if the very thing you are fighting is actually trying to protect you in the only way it knows how? Your mind is not random. It is not chaotic without reason. It is built from everything you have experienced, everything you have learned, every moment where you felt pain, fear, rejection, uncertainty, or loss. It remembers these things not to punish you, but to prevent them from happening again. It creates thoughts not because it wants to disturb you, but because it is trying to keep you safe. Think about the kind of thoughts that usually appear when your mind won't rest. They often revolve around things that could go wrong, things that might hurt you, mistakes you might repeat, or situations you might not be prepared for. These thoughts may feel uncomfortable, even overwhelming, but beneath them there is a simple intention. Your mind is trying to anticipate danger before it arrives. It is trying to solve problems before they exist. It is trying to prepare you for outcomes that may never happen. From its perspective, this is helpful. From its perspective, thinking more means being safer. If it can imagine every possible scenario, it believes it can protect you from being caught off guard. If it can replay past experiences, it believes it can help you avoid making the same mistakes again. But here is where the problem begins. The mind does not know when to stop. It does not recognize when you are already safe, when nothing is happening, when there is no immediate danger in front of you. It continues its work even when it is no longer necessary. And what started as protection slowly turns into exhaustion. You begin to feel like your own mind is attacking you. But in reality, it is overprotecting you. It is trying too hard. Imagine someone standing next to you all the time, constantly warning you about every possible thing that could go wrong. At first, it might feel helpful, but over time, it becomes overwhelming. You cannot relax, you cannot rest, and you begin to feel tense even when there is no real threat. This is exactly what your mind is doing. It is not your enemy, but it does not understand balance. This is why fighting your mind does not work. When you try to silence it, when you treat it like something that must be controlled or defeated, it reacts the same way any protective system would react when it feels ignored. It becomes louder, it becomes more urgent. It tries harder to get your attention because it believes something important is being missed. The more you push it away, the more it pushes back. The more you resist it, the more intense it becomes. But what happens if you stop treating it like an enemy? and start understanding what it is trying to do. What happens if instead of saying, "Why won't you stop?" you begin to say, "I see what you're trying to do." There is a shift that occurs when you approach your mind with understanding instead of resistance. The tension begins to soften. The urgency begins to fade. Not because the thoughts disappear immediately, but because you are no longer reacting to them in a way that fuels them. When a thought appears, instead of following it or fighting it, you can acknowledge it. You can recognize that your mind is trying to protect you, even if it is doing so in a way that is no longer helpful. This recognition changes the entire dynamic. The thought is no longer something you must obey, and it is no longer something you must suppress. It becomes something you can observe with a sense of calm awareness. This is where compassion becomes important. Not just compassion for others, but compassion for your own mind. Your mind learned these patterns over time. It learned to be alert, to be cautious, to be prepared, because at some point, those patterns served a purpose. They helped you navigate difficult situations, they helped you avoid harm, and they became part of the way you operate. But now, those same patterns are running constantly, even when they are not needed. Instead of criticizing your mind for this, you can begin to relate to it differently. You can acknowledge its effort without letting it control you. You can allow the thoughts to be there without believing that they must be followed. There is also something very powerful that happens when you remind yourself, gently and honestly, that in this moment you are safe. Not in a forced or artificial way, but in a simple recognition of what is actually happening right now. Your mind may be presenting scenarios, possibilities, and fears, but if you look around, if you feel your body, if you notice your breath, you may begin to see that none of those imagined dangers are present. This does not mean your life is perfect or that nothing will ever go wrong, but it means that right now, in this moment, there is no immediate threat that requires your mind to be working so intensely. When your mind senses that you are aware, that you are not ignoring it, but also not reacting to it with fear, it begins to relax. It no longer needs to escalate its warnings because it feels acknowledged. The thoughts may still appear, but they lose their sharpness, they lose their urgency, they begin to pass more naturally, without pulling you into them as deeply as before. This is not about shutting down your mind. It is about creating a different relationship with it, a relationship where you are not controlled by every thought, but you are also not fighting against them. A relationship where you can listen without becoming overwhelmed, where you can notice without becoming attached, and where you can allow without losing yourself. Over time, this changes the way your mind operates. It learns that it does not need to work so hard. It learns that not every thought needs to be urgent. It learns that you are capable of being present without constant analysis, and slowly, almost without you noticing, the intensity begins to fade. The thoughts become quieter. The gaps between them become longer. The feeling of pressure begins to lift. Tonight, when your mind starts to move again, instead of reacting with frustration or fear, try something different. Notice what the thought is trying to do. Notice how it is attempting to prepare you, to warn you, to protect you. And instead of following it, simply acknowledge it. You do not need to say anything out loud. You do not need to create a complicated response. Just a simple recognition is enough. You may begin to feel a subtle shift, a small sense of ease where there was tension before. It may not happen instantly, and it may not last forever at first, but it is a beginning, and that beginning is important because it shows you that your mind is not something you need to escape from. It is something you can understand, something you can work with, something that, when approached with awareness and patience, can begin to settle on its own. This is where a different kind of rest begins to appear, not the kind that comes from forcing your mind to stop, but the kind that comes from no longer being at war with it. And in that absence of conflict, even for a moment, you begin to feel something you may have been searching for without realizing it. A sense of calm that is not fragile. A sense of safety that is not dependent on controlling every outcome. A sense of quiet that does not require your mind to be completely silent. This is the beginning of trust. Trust in yourself, trust in your awareness, and slowly, over time, trust in your mind to no longer overwhelm you, because you are no longer giving it the power to do so. There is a quiet frustration that many people carry without fully understanding it, a feeling that something should be easier than it is, especially when it comes to the mind. You hear the idea of letting go, you understand it intellectually, you even try to apply it. But when the moment comes, when your thoughts are loud and persistent, it feels like nothing changes. The same patterns return, the same loops repeat, and you begin to wonder if you are doing something wrong, or if your mind is simply too strong to ever become calm. But the truth is much simpler, and at the same time much deeper than most people realize. Letting go is not something you achieve once and then keep forever. It is not a switch that you turn on and suddenly your mind becomes quiet. It is a practice, something you return to again and again, moment by moment, thought by thought, without expecting immediate perfection. The mind has been conditioned over years, sometimes over decades, to think in certain ways. It has learned to hold on to things, to analyze, to worry, to replay, and these patterns have become automatic. Expecting them to disappear instantly is like expecting a habit built over a lifetime to vanish in a single night. It is not realistic, and more importantly, it creates unnecessary pressure. This pressure is subtle but powerful. You try to let go, and when the thought returns, you feel like you have failed. You become frustrated, you judge yourself, and without noticing it, you create another layer of thinking on top of the original thought. Now you are not only dealing with the thought itself, but also with the idea that you should not be having it. This is how the cycle deepens. Letting go is not about forcing thoughts to disappear. It is about changing the way you respond when they appear. It is about recognizing that thoughts will come, that they will repeat, and that each time they do, you have a choice. You can follow them as you always have, or you can gently release them without becoming involved. This release does not have to be dramatic. It does not require effort or struggle. In fact, the more you try to force it, the more difficult it becomes. Letting go is closer to relaxing your grip than pushing something away. It is the difference between holding something tightly and simply opening your hand. At first, this may feel unfamiliar. You are used to engaging with your thoughts, to analyzing them, to trying to resolve them immediately. When you stop doing this, there may be a sense of incompleteness, as if something has been left unfinished. But if you stay with the practice, you will begin to see that not every thought needs a conclusion. Not every question needs an answer right now. Some things can simply pass without being held. Each time you notice a thought and choose not to follow it, something small but important happens. You weaken the habit of overthinking. You create a new pattern, one that is based on awareness rather than reaction. This may not feel significant in the moment, but over time, these small moments begin to add up. The mind starts to learn from your actions. It begins to see that not every thought leads to engagement, that not every idea turns into a story, and slowly, its behavior changes. The thoughts may still come, but they come with less intensity, less urgency, and less control over your attention. There will be moments where the practice feels easy, where you notice a thought and release it without effort. And there will be moments where it feels almost impossible, where the thoughts are so strong that you feel completely pulled into them. Both of these experiences are part of the process. Neither one defines your progress. What matters is not how perfectly you let go, but how consistently you return to the practice. Even if you get lost in thought for a long time, the moment you become aware again, that moment matters. It is not a failure. It is a return. It is a reminder that you are not completely controlled by your mind, that you still have the ability to step back and observe. This is why patience is essential. Without patience, you turn the practice into another goal to achieve, another thing to get right, another reason to feel frustrated when it does not happen quickly. But with patience, you allow the process to unfold naturally. You give your mind the time it needs to adjust, to learn, to change. There is also a deeper layer to this practice that becomes more visible over time. You begin to notice that letting go is not only about thoughts, but about everything you hold on to internally. Expectations, judgments, fears, and even the idea of how things should be. All of these can be released in the same way. You notice them, you acknowledge them, and you choose not to carry them forward. This creates a sense of lightness that goes beyond the mind. It affects the way you feel in your body, the way you experience your surroundings, and the way you relate to yourself. The constant pressure begins to fade, replaced by a quieter, more stable presence. Tonight, as your mind continues its activity, do not expect it to stop completely. Do not demand immediate silence. Instead, see this as an opportunity to practice. Each thought that appears is a chance to let go, a chance to step back, a chance to choose awareness over reaction. You may need to do this many times. The same thought may return again and again, and each time you can respond in the same way, by noticing it and releasing it without resistance. There is no limit to how many times you can return to this practice, and there is no penalty for needing to do it repeatedly. Over time, something begins to shift in a way that is almost effortless. The thoughts lose their hold, not because they have been forced away, but because they are no longer being reinforced. The mind becomes quieter, not in a sudden or dramatic way, but gradually, naturally, as if it is settling on its own. And within that quiet, you begin to experience a different kind of rest. Not the kind that depends on the complete absence of thoughts, but the kind that comes from no longer being carried away by them. A rest that exists even when the mind is still active, because your relationship with it has changed. This is the true meaning of letting go. Not a one-time action, but a continuous, gentle practice. Not something you achieve once, but something you return to whenever you notice you have been holding on. And as you continue this practice with patience and without judgment, you begin to realize that peace was never far away. It was always available, hidden beneath the layers of habit and reaction, waiting for you to stop holding on so tightly. This is how your mind begins to rest, not because you forced it to be silent, but because you learned step by step to let go. There is a quiet exhaustion that builds inside you over time, a kind of tiredness that sleep alone cannot fix, because it does not come from your body. It comes from everything your mind has been carrying for far too long. You may not always notice it clearly, but it is there, in the tension you feel when you try to relax, in the heaviness that returns the moment your thoughts begin again, in the sense that no matter how much you rest, something inside you is still working, still holding, still refusing to let go. Most people believe they are tired because they think too much, but that is only part of the truth. You are tired because you are holding too much. You are carrying thoughts, memories, expectations, worries, and possibilities as if each one is something that must be kept, something that cannot be released, something that requires your constant attention. And over time, this constant holding turns into a weight that follows you everywhere, even into the moments where you are supposed to rest. Think about how many things your mind is holding right now without you even realizing it. There are things from your past that still feel unresolved, conversations that linger in your memory, moments that left an emotional mark that never fully faded. There are expectations about the future, things you feel you need to achieve, outcomes you are trying to control, situations you are preparing for, even though they have not yet arrived. There are also the smaller, quieter thoughts that seem insignificant on their own, but together create a constant background noise that never truly stops. Each of these may seem important when you focus on it individually, but when you carry all of them at once, they become overwhelming. The mind was never meant to hold everything at the same time, yet this is exactly what it tries to do. It gathers, it stores, it repeats, and it keeps everything active, as if letting go would mean losing control. But what if control is not what you need? What if the reason your mind cannot rest is not because it lacks control, but because it is trying to control too much? There is a difference between being aware of something and holding on to it. Awareness is light. It observes without pressure. It allows things to exist without needing to manage them constantly. Holding, on the other hand, is heavy. It tightens, it resists. It creates tension because it is always trying to keep something in place. When you hold onto a thought, you are not just noticing it, you are sustaining it. You are keeping it active, feeding it with your attention, and preventing it from passing naturally. This is why the same thoughts return again and again. It is not because they are inherently powerful, but because they are being held in place by your focus. Imagine trying to carry everything you own in your hands at the same time. At first, you might manage it, but very quickly it becomes too much. Your grip tightens, your muscles strain, and what could have been simple becomes exhausting. Eventually, the only way to find relief is to put things down, to release what you are holding, and to allow your hands to rest. This is exactly what your mind needs. Not more control, not more analysis, not more effort, but less holding. Letting go does not mean you forget everything or that you stop caring about your life. It means you stop caring everything all at once. It means you allow thoughts to come and go without turning them into something permanent. It means you trust that not everything needs to be solved right now, that not everything needs to be understood immediately, and that some things can simply exist without your constant involvement. There is a quiet freedom in this realization. When you stop holding on to every thought, every worry, every expectation, something inside you begins to relax. The tension softens, the pressure decreases, and the constant sense of urgency begins to fade. You start to feel a space that was not there before. A space where your mind is no longer crowded, no longer overwhelmed, no longer carrying everything at once. This space is not empty in a negative way. It is open, calm, and steady. It is the kind of space where you can finally breathe without feeling like something is pulling you back into thinking. It is the kind of space where rest becomes possible, not because your mind has stopped completely, but because it is no longer overloaded. The process of reaching this state is not about forcing yourself to drop everything instantly. It is about noticing what you are holding and gently allowing it to be released. You may not even be aware of how tightly you are holding on to certain thoughts until you try to let them go. There may be resistance, a feeling that you need to keep thinking about something, that you are not finished with it, that letting go would be irresponsible in some way. But if you look closely, you will see that most of this resistance is based on habit rather than necessity. The mind has become used to holding, used to repeating, used to staying active, and it interprets stillness as something unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. But that discomfort is temporary. It is simply the mind adjusting to a new way of being. Tonight, as you lie down and your thoughts begin to move, notice what you are holding. Notice the thoughts that keep returning, the ones that feel heavy, the ones that seem to demand your attention. Instead of following them, instead of trying to resolve them, gently loosen your grip. You do not need to push them away. You do not need to force them to disappear. You only need to stop holding them in place. Allow them to pass as they came. If they return, allow them again. Each time you do this, even if it feels small, you are reducing the weight your mind is carrying. You are creating space where there was tension, ease where there was pressure, and quiet where there was constant noise. Over time, this practice begins to change something fundamental. You no longer feel the need to hold on to everything. You begin to trust that things can unfold without your constant control, that thoughts can pass without being managed, and that peace does not require you to solve every problem in your mind. This trust is important because it allows you to relax at a deeper level, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. It allows your mind to settle, not because it has been forced to be quiet, but because it no longer has anything to carry. And in that state, something very simple yet very powerful becomes clear. Peace was never something you had to create. It was always there, beneath everything you were holding. The reason you could not feel it was not because it was absent, but because it was covered by layers of thoughts, worries, and attachments that you believed you needed to keep. Once those layers begin to fall away, even slightly, peace begins to reveal itself. It does not arrive suddenly, and it does not overwhelm you. It appears quietly, gently, in the spaces between your thoughts, in the moments where you are not holding on to anything, in the simple experience of being present without pressure. This is where true rest begins. Not when your mind is completely empty, but when it is no longer burdened. Not when everything is solved, but when nothing is being carried unnecessarily. And as you begin to experience this, even for a short time, you realize that rest was never as far away as it seemed. It was always within reach, waiting for you to stop holding on so tightly. So tonight, you do not need to fix everything. You do not need to understand everything. You do not need to control everything. You only need to let go, even a little. And in that small act of release, your mind begins to soften, your body begins to relax, and slowly, naturally, without force, you begin to rest. Now, as this moment begins to slow down, and your mind is still here, still moving, notice something. You didn't need to force it to stop. You didn't need to win against it. And yet, something inside you has already changed. Because for the first time, you stopped fighting your mind and you started understanding it. And that changes everything. Tonight, you don't need to solve your past. You don't need to control your future. You don't need to figure everything out. Before you allow yourself to rest, you only need to let go, even just a little. Let go of the thoughts you've been holding. Let go of the pressure to fix everything. Let go of the need to control what hasn't even happened yet. And as you do, notice how your body begins to soften. Notice how your breath becomes slower. Notice how the space inside you becomes quieter. Not because your mind disappeared, but because you stopped carrying everything it was giving you. So as you close your eyes tonight, let the thoughts come and let them go, like waves that rise and fall without needing you to hold on to them. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who sees them and chooses to release them. And in that release, even for a moment, you finally begin to rest.